CBI's 73,000 crore claim, a shadow over the Anil Ambani Group. How deep does this story really go? Just imagine. It is late evening. From the outside, a tall corporate office building looks as calm as ever. City lights are reflecting on the glass facade, the lift is moving up and down, and routine movement continues at the security gate. But somewhere inside that silence, a file has already been opened that does not seem to be just the story of one company, one group, or a few loan accounts. This is the story of that trust on which banks lend money, investors take risks, institutions sign papers, and the entire financial system runs on the hope that rules will remain rules in the end. Now imagine that inside that same system, a status report goes to the court, and it says that in 7 cases linked to the Reliance Anil Ambani Group, investigation is underway into alleged wrongful losses or claims of around 73,006 crore. And this is where the fear begins. The question is not just how big the amount is. The real question is, if there is substance in the allegations, then how did all this happen on such a large scale? How did it escape everyone's notice? And were some people sitting inside the system also involved somewhere along the way? In its order dated the 23rd of March 2026, the Supreme Court also recorded this very concern, that the initial facts themselves say a lot, and therefore the agencies must jointly get to the bottom of any irregularity, illegal act, or possible collusion of public officials. The most important thing in this entire story is that, as of now, this is not a matter of final guilt or conviction, but of investigation. This distinction is very important because in public discussion, allegation and proof are often presented as if they are the same thing. For now, what has come on record in court is that the CBI said in its status report that 7 cases are under active investigation, and the role of some public servants is also being examined. The Supreme Court itself wrote in the order that it is not expressing any opinion on the merits of the allegations, but that the CBI and ED must complete a fair, transparent, independent, and time-bound investigation. In other words, the court has not given any final finding yet, but it has certainly accepted that the matter is serious and cannot be taken lightly. When an ordinary viewer hears a number like 73,000 crore, the first reaction in the mind is shock. But if you look at it from a documentary lens, numbers are only the surface. The real story is hidden in the structure. According to the Supreme Court's order, in one of the cases referred to by the CBI, case RC01E/2026, the alleged wrongful loss was stated to be 2,223 crore, while in the remaining cases, the losses were said to be in several thousands of crores, and together, the figure of claims came to around 73,006 crore. That is the figure that has now become the headline. But the second part of the headline is even more uncomfortable. The court also noted that according to the ED's report, some insolvency proceedings were allegedly initiated deliberately through unrelated lenders, and there was also mention of a purported structure called Project Help. This phrase sounds like something out of a thriller script in itself, but when such a phrase appears in the context of a court-recorded investigation, the matter no longer remains just a financial dispute. It starts taking the shape of a pattern. This is where the whole story enters through the door of the insolvency process. For the common man, words like IBC, resolution, lenders, haircuts, and NBFC funding sound very technical, but their direct meaning is important to understand. When a company gets trapped in a debt crisis, the purpose of the insolvency framework is that creditors get recovery through a structured, lawful, and transparent process. Assets get resolved, and business does not descend into chaos. But if there is an allegation that this very process was manipulated, then the matter becomes even more serious. Referring to the ED's report, the Supreme Court's order said that funding for IBC acquisitions was arranged through a group of 8 NBFCs, and claims of around 2,983 crore were settled for just 26 crore. Now any viewer would be stunned hearing this number, because the natural question arises. Was this normal commercial distress or a process that gave disproportionate advantage to some parties? The court has not given any final finding on this, but it certainly considered it serious enough to direct the agencies to conduct a deeper joint probe. Another sensitive angle in this case is the investigation into the possible role of public servants and officials of financial institutions. This part is extremely important because large financial controversies are often not just the story of borrowers. In any large loan architecture, sanctioning officers, credit committees, valuation processes, monitoring teams, legal opinions, restructuring approvals, consortium decisions, forensic flags, all of them have layered roles. The Supreme Court said in very clear words in the order that senior officials of the investigating agencies must also examine the possibility of whether public officials sitting in financial institutions gave undue benefits to the RAAG management. This line carries great weight because it shows that the concern is not only about corporate conduct, but also institutional conduct. If the gatekeepers of the system themselves weaken somewhere, then the risk does not remain limited to one group. It stains the credibility of the entire banking ecosystem. Now place this story in the broader banking background. Over the last decade, India has seen several sharp waves of large loan defaults, stressed assets, restructuring failures, and bank fraud investigations. After the RBI and government-backed cleanup process, public sector banks did show progress in reducing bad loans, but legacy issues still continue to surface from time to time. In such a situation, when a probe involving claims of 73,000 crore linked to an old large corporate group comes to light, many names like Nirav Modi, Vijay Mallya, DHFL, IL, and FS, and Yes Bank begin floating together in public memory. That is why this matter becomes not just a legal development, but a public trust event. People ask, when a common customer delays even a small EMI, reminders, penalties, and recovery begin quickly, then why do red flags appear so late in corporate exposures of thousands of crores? This is the same emotional gap that makes such news more than just business news and connects it with public anger and insecurity. And the name Anil Ambani in itself makes this story even more dramatic. Because this is not just the name of a businessman, but a chapter of Indian corporate history that contains almost every dramatic layer: meteoric rise, family split, telecom dreams, infrastructure ambitions, finance expansion, market enthusiasm, debt buildup, value erosion, legal troubles, and corporate collapse. There was a time when Anil Ambani was counted among the most powerful business faces in India. From telecom to infrastructure and entertainment, the group had built an aggressive presence across many sectors. But in later years, debt pressure, asset sales, failed bets, regulatory shocks, and market losses changed the picture. So today, when such an investigation connected to that very legacy comes to light, the news is not read only in the present tense. The entire past travels with it. The question naturally rises in the viewer's mind. Was this merely an extension of business failure, or was some deeper financial engineering hidden inside that failure? Perhaps the most cinematic part of this entire story is the Project Help angle. The name sounds like help, but in the report its context creates suspicion instead. The ED told the Supreme Court that some seized documents refer to a purported Project Help, which indicates that insolvency proceedings were allegedly initiated deliberately through unrelated lenders. Now pay attention. This is not just an accounting issue. If the very beginning of an insolvency process was strategically triggered through players who had no direct connection with the original debt structure, then it may mean that there was an attempt to influence the resolution machinery. This is the point where a corporate stress story turns into a legal strategy story. And if that legal strategy story hints at unfair advantage or hidden coordination, then it turns into a potential financial misconduct story. All of this is still within the scope of investigation, but the gravity of suspicion begins from here. The Supreme Court did not only ask the agencies to investigate, but also practically indicated that lack of coordination would not be tolerated. In the order, the court noted that the ED had sought some information from other law enforcement agencies, regulatory bodies, financial institutions, and authorities, but some of that information had not been provided. The court then clearly said that all concerned agencies and financial institutions must extend full cooperation to the ED and make the necessary information available in a timely fashion. This direction itself says a lot. When an investigation is multi-agency, documents are scattered, old transactions are layered, shell structures are suspected, and the bank trail is spread across multiple entities, then information sharing itself becomes a major battlefield in the case. The court saying that the ED should report any delay, reluctance, or resistance shows that the judges too understood that reaching the truth will not happen merely by reading allegations. Institutional walls will have to be broken. Now understand the psychological impact of this news. When the public hears the words bank scam, it often assumes that taxpayer money has been looted, whereas the technical reality can sometimes be far more layered. Somewhere wrongful loss, somewhere unpaid exposure, somewhere a fraud allegation, somewhere diversion, somewhere an insolvency haircut, somewhere a criminal conspiracy probe. But public anger remains genuine because bank money is, after all, the circulating blood of the economy. It is built on depositors' trust, public capital, market borrowing, and the national credit architecture. If questions keep rising repeatedly over large borrowers, while the system appears harsher towards small borrowers, the feeling of inequality grows. That is why in such cases, not only the court outcome, but the perceived seriousness of the investigation matters a great deal. When the Supreme Court spoke of a dispassionate, fair, transparent, and independent investigation, it was not just sending a message to the agencies, but also trying to reassure the public that the matter would not be left as a procedural formality. Reliance Group's response to PTI's query was said to be awaited. That means the narrative running in the public domain at this stage is based mainly on court records, agency status reports, and media reporting. Final defense, rebuttal, explanation, commercial context, transaction by transaction justification. All of that may come later. So every viewer should understand that this is not yet a final verdict, but an unfolding investigation. Many times, very large figures are understood differently later after reclassification, legal challenge, recovery proceedings, insolvency outcomes, and trial findings. Even so, one thing is certain. The Supreme Court's recorded concern takes this matter far above an ordinary banking dispute. Now let us come to the question that is probably in every viewer's mind. If all this was going on, were regulators, lenders, and monitoring systems asleep? The answer to this cannot be given in one sentence yet. The financing web of large corporate groups is often very complex. Between consortium lending, intercorporate guarantees, layered subsidiaries, project lending, refinancing, structured obligations, security packages, pledged assets, and resolution attempts, early warning signals sometimes get buried in noise. But that is exactly the purpose of the investigation. To determine whether the failure happened because of market stress alone, because of management decisions, because of systemic weakness, or because of some coordinated misconduct. If at any stage officials looked away, granted undue favor, or treated compliance lightly, then that would be as big a scandal as any allegation of borrower-level misconduct. And perhaps the most unsettling part of this whole story is this, that here it is not just money being counted, institutions themselves are being tested. The CBI's credibility, the ED's capacity to follow through, the record integrity of financial institutions, the responsiveness of regulators, the fairness of the insolvency system, and the oversight of the Supreme Court, all are under test together. That is why this news moves beyond the business page and becomes part of the national conversation. Because the public is watching whether the system shows the same strictness in cases involving big names as it does with small people. Will the agencies build an evidence chain beyond the headlines? Will court-monitored urgency turn into a real outcome? Will the role of public servants remain just a footnote, or will accountability also reach the door where the signatures were made? In the end, if this story has to be understood in one line, then it is not just an investigation into an alleged 73,000 crore bank scam involving the Anil Ambani Group. It is an investigation into whether India's financial system can deal honestly with its most difficult stories. The Supreme Court fixed the next hearing for the 30th of April 2026, and the court also recorded that the Solicitor General had assured that the investigation would be taken swiftly to a logical conclusion. Now, whatever happens next will not just decide the legal fate of one group, it will also show how strong the spine of the institution still is. Because the real strength of any economy does not lie only in its GDP, stock market, or headlines. Its real strength lies in whether, when the heaviest questions are raised against the system, reaching the truth is actually possible. The suspense in this story is not over yet. Perhaps the real story has only just begun. If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible. But in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.